Alright, now that everyone is sufficiently cringing, we can get on with this. Welcome back everyone, it's that time of the week again. I have gone to see a movie and I am going to talk about it. This week I'm going to be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, which has been a really highly anticipated film, so I'm really excited to talk about this one. And before we begin, here's your spoiler warning. To recap, Five Nights at Freddy's follows Mike Schmidt as he takes a low-paying, bad hours night security shift at an abandoned pizzeria as a last-ditch effort to prove that he is a capable carer for his young sister. Struggling with both childhood guilt from when his younger brother was abducted and the current situation with his sister, Mike finds himself in more trouble when the animatronics in the pizzeria come to life and begin to murder people, only for Mike to discover that the animatronics themselves house the souls and bodies of 5 children who were murdered in the past by William Afton, who is revealed to be the man that both hired Mike for this job and kidnapped Mike's brother in the past. The first thing I want to say is that the art department did an incredible job in this film. I'd even say that the set and the practical effects stole the show. The pizzeria is the standout location of the film and I absolutely loved it. It looks so authentic to the original game and I would love to visit that set, although they didn't have the classic office doors from the game, but whatever. The animatronics also looked incredible, which doesn't tend to happen in adaptations like this. In many films, the animatronics would have been made fully or mostly out of CG, but in this film they were puppets. They were all practical, and I think it really made the film. There is one downside to that, and that is how one specific animatronic moved, and that's Foxy. In the original games, you never really see the animatronics move on camera. You flick between cameras and then they move when you're not looking. This translates well to the puppets in the movie because they can't move very far. So they do a little bit of movement on screen and then they do their main movements off camera, off screen through camera tricks, which actually works to kind of replicate the little bit of suspense that was in the original Five Nights at Freddy's game. The one exception to this in the original game is Foxy. Foxy is the only animatronic that you see run down the hallway, and that animation is actually quite famous at this point. However, in the film, he acts the same way as the other animatronics. There was one scene where it looked like we might be getting his running, where he was standing at the end of a hallway, but instead of running down the hallway and sprinting towards his victim, he just kind of teleports in front, and we get a little bit of a jump scare, which was honestly disappointing. So that was the limitation of having puppets and practical effects for the animatronics. It's really, really hard to get Foxy to sprint down the hallway like this. At the very least, it's really difficult to make it look good. That leads into the second thing I want to talk about in this film. As someone that has followed Five Nights at Freddy's for a little while, I was actually disappointed by the film. I felt like the film put too much emphasis on Mike's personal drama and personal history, as opposed to the mystery of what was going on in the pizzeria and the murders that occurred there years ago. In the original game especially, you spent all your time in the main office, and that was the only gameplay. You didn't walk around, you didn't have much story told directly to your face. You had to piece together and kind of theorize about what had happened in the past through the hints from the phone guy, and through newspaper clippings on the wall, and just everything else. There was no direct story given to you. That was honestly probably one of the reasons that the game franchise did so well initially. There was some semblance of an overarching story, but no one, probably not even Scott Cawthon, the creator of the games, knew what that was entirely. It was all speculation. And that was the allure of the franchise. Just look at how much content it was pumped out by Game Theory just talking about this one indie game series. The film, however, felt like a pretty generic horror movie. Some people die at the start, then our protagonist comes in, they have a child with them that has some connection somehow to being able to see ghosts or see what's going on. Specifically, they can speak with the ghosts and form some kind of creepy connection with them, and horror ensues. Sure, there is like the twist where William Afton turns out to be the mastermind behind the animatronics, and Abby is able to turn the spirits of the children back against William Afton. But then again, that's also not exactly anything new when it comes to horror movies. That's become the kind of cliche twist, I would say. About halfway through the film, I realized that I shouldn't be watching this film as someone with prior knowledge of Five Nights at Freddy's. I should be watching this with a fresh mind, no thought about what Five Nights at Freddy's was before, or what it's going to mean for the main series. After that, I was able to enjoy it a bit more, kind of in the same way that you recognize that the MCU isn't a direct one-to-one of the comics. It's its own thing with its own entities and own history. I do think a film could be made that really replicates the feeling of the original Five Nights at Freddy's, but it might not get as much traction outside of the fandom. While the story beats are pretty generic, it's a lot friendlier to a first-time viewer of the franchise. It sets up and explains everything that's going on in such a way that it doesn't leave you needing to look elsewhere to complete the story, which is part of the issue, because that was 90% of the original Five Nights at Freddy's storytelling. So, in that respect, I feel like the film is a pretty generic, safe, okay at best horror, but it just doesn't feel very Five Nights at Freddy's. Overall, there were some moments that I liked. I enjoyed Matthew Lillard, he's always fun, and the Springlock scene was actually kind of enjoyable. Although the film as a whole felt like a safe option for the producers. But that is all I've got to say about this film. If you liked it, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, they all help us out a lot. By going to the link in the description, you can also find our Patreon, where you would gain access to a bunch of extra content like these reviews a few days early, and executive producer patrons get their names put right here at the end of our videos and in our credits. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!